Broadcasting from Manhattan Beach and the World Wide Web, you're listening to CHSR, HealthyLife.net.
As a service to our listeners, this program is for general information and entertainment purposes only. CHSR, HealthyLife.net does not recommend, endorse, or object to the views, products, or topics expressed or discussed by show hosts or their guests. We suggest you always consult with your own personal, medical, financial, or legal advisor.
It's time now for the Patty Conklin Show, exclusively on HealthyLife.net radio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone. This is Frenesa Hall, MD, as Patty likes to say. She is crazy busy this month, so she's left me up to my own devices. And today, my special guest is my dear friend and colleague, at least I think so, Susan Kramer. She wears many hats, herbalist, Chinese medicine practitioner, homeopath, and just an all-around interesting person. Susan, thank you for being my guest today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and I wish we were in person, but this will have to
I know. It's been too long. We were talking early before we came on the air about having done shows, the three of us, you, me, and Patty, all together in person in the past, and how much fun it was. And do you remember giving me my homeopathic constitutional remedy? Do you remember that?
I remember everyone sitting in the room, and I remember that you were sitting on the sofa, but you were so excited at the moment. You were actually sitting on the back. You had propped yourself up, and you were sitting on the back of the sofa.
And I remember falling asleep. Well, what I remember is waking up. I don't remember falling asleep. I remember waking up and thinking, "Oh my goodness, how long was I out?" But
and
that was
right? It changed everything.
Yeah. So it was 20-some years ago. But let's just talk about you, because you have such an interesting background. I mean, you went from, sort of hardcore business, law, economics, and to being an herbalist, homeopath. I mean, how do you get from one place to the other? So, start at the beginning and just sort of paint the picture. I think I remember something about a relative that did herbal things. So fill us in, because it's fascinating. I think one thing it's really encouraging for all those people out there who are doing something but always had a passion for something else. And and you show that, it can be done. So fill us in on your journey.
So I always saw myself as a child. I saw myself as an herbalist. I didn't know the word for it, or as a homeopath. And my description, when I would try to explain to people what that looked like, is that I spoke in the words and the language of a 7-year-old. And so I described, I had a fireplace. Well, I've always wanted a fireplace. We didn't have one. And it would be the kind that you could sit on, because I really liked that you could sit and have the fire behind you. And there'd be 2 cats. And people would come, and I was asked when I would describe this, well, what kind of job is that? And I said, well, people would come to me, and I would make them something, and then they would get all better. And they'd ask, well, what would you make them? I'd say, well, I'd make them something special that you'd get from the woods. And I knew that there were plants in the woods behind my house that could be used medicinally. And I knew that because my neighbor, Lynn Larson, had a Boy Scout manual, and the Boy Scout manual talked all about plants and how the plants could be used to heal. So that was my introduction as a 7-year-old. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to heal the people and heal the pets. And I wanted to use the stuff that was all around us to help with that process.
So 7-year-old, you grow up, you go to college, and?
Well, you go to college, And guess what? No one is practicing herbal medicine. When you ask about it, they say, well, you could be a doctor, you could be a nurse. And I asked, well, what do doctors do? I have a lot of respect for doctors. Some of my best friends are doctors. But I was told that doctors used medicine or they used surgery. And I said, I don't want to use medicine and I don't want to do surgery. So that leaves out being a doctor. So instead I went to become an economist because I was good at it. Meanwhile, I was also really interested in martial arts. And in martial arts, the problem is that you get hurt you can get hurt. I mean, yes, you can do it in such a way that you don't get hurt, but typically people do get hurt. And when you get to the higher levels in martial arts, you start learning ways of healing people. And I learned that I was asking one of my instructors one day, well, what does it mean to be a first-degree black belt or a secondary black belt? And he was explaining this system to me and explained that a fifth-degree black belt was not about martial art. It wasn't about any kind of physical technique. Instead, it would be, he said, well, that would be like becoming a doctor or maybe learning herbal medicine. Herbal medicine. Oh, my gosh. That's what I wanted to do. And we started learning traditional Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese herbal medicine, as a way of dealing with the problems. Like, what kind of problems in judo? Well, you get bruised. You fall down a lot and you get bruised. And how do you get that bruise to go away more quickly? Or someone gets a black eye. How do you get that black eye to go away more quickly? So, for instance, you asked, how did you get into homeopathy? The first time I knew about homeopathy was actually I was in school in North Carolina, and I was in a judo club. Our instructor was a man who was blind, and he knew all about homeopathy. And one day, I'd been thrown to the ground too many times, and I was very sore. And he said, you should take arnica. And I asked, what's arnica? And he said, oh, it's a homeopathic. I asked, what's a homeopathic? And now we're talking about exactly that.
But there's law school somewhere in there, right?
Well, first I went for econ. Yes, it's true. But first I went for econ, and after going for econ, I became an economist. I worked as an economist. I became an attorney. I worked for 10 years as an attorney, and one day I was asked if I were asked to be a judge, would I accept the position? And I realized no, I really wanted to be an herbalist. And that was the decision. And I started wrapping up my law practice and went to school for herbal medicine.
And what school did you go to again?
I went to a school that's now known as Botanologos, and then I went to the East-West School for Herbal Medicine.
And let's just talk about that because, I think some people think, herbal medicine is just, whatever, but so many medications are derived from plants. I think the most famous one that we learned about in medical school was digoxin. It was from a plant. But aspirin, it's from, white willow bark, I believe.
Exactly.
Digoxin is from, I don't know, I can't remember now. The first statin drug is from red yeast rice. So many drugs and chemotherapy agents as well are derived from plants. And so plants have had potent effects for centuries, long before, modern medicine, which is, 100 years old. It's really quite young compared to herbal medicine. And when you look at traditional Chinese medicine, it goes back centuries.
Right.
one of the most profound events for me was, I think I told you about this. I went to a conference. It was at Harvard. It was on complementary medicine. And one of the speakers had gone to China to learn more about their system. But he had appendicitis while he was there and had to have emergency surgery. And he woke up, and, you know, you wake up from anesthesia and whatever, and you have pain. Someone cut something out of you. And so he somehow conveyed that to the caretakers, and he was expecting them to come in and put something in an IV or whatever, and they came in, and they did acupuncture on him.
Exactly.
And when he was able to take things orally, they gave him herbal remedies. And he was shocked because he had excellent pain control.
Right.
You know,
right.
And that was something that really resonated and just like hit me between the eye, you know, that these, you know, quote, alternative things, work. And honestly, I mean, I'm sure you believe the same way. They're not alternatives. They are the original, medicine.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
The allopathic medicine, the way I was trained, you know, that's the alternative. And so, you know, it's just such a profound thing. But I just find it so fascinating that, you know, the martial arts, that part of that culture and those teachings is including the skills and knowledge to help heal yourself naturally. And without the toxic effects of many of the things that are prescribed to people. But,
right.
So it sounds like, you know, there was this sort of synergy in the martial arts that, you know, pulled together something that you recognized as a child as something that you wanted to do, and this, you know, just opened up that door for you. And and with the herbal medicine, I mean, I'm sure people are like, well, you know, what do you learn in herbal medicine school? You know, it's like, okay, plants, but recognizing what they are, but you actually make custom remedies for people.
Yeah.
And I, you know, I have benefited from those nasty tinctures. I have to say, they were just so horrible.
Wonderfully
but
they're terrific.
But effective. But so effective, and so, you know, I mean, there must be, I don't even know how many plants there are that we know of, and there are probably more that have gone extinct with cutting down the rainforests and, you know, those deep remote areas that, you know, people haven't been. And there are probably more plants out there than we know. How many plants, if you could guess, are in, you know, whatever compendium of herbal medicine that you studied from?
So the compendiums that I studied from would include probably just under 1,000 remedies, of which I probably have pretty good knowledge of about 350. But there are herbalists who would have known maybe thousands. That's remarkable.
Wow.
The thing is, it's not the number of herbs, but how well you can use them. So I have a story about one of my mentors. One of my mentors was studying in India, and his instructor, his guru, said, I want you to, when you're not studying with me, I want you to be doing something that's good for other people, that's helping other people. Go do something. So he said, well, I'm an herbalist. I'll go into the forest. I'll put my chair down in the forest. People will come to me, and I'll help them out. So this is a good plan, except he only knew one plant. He knew one herbal plant that he could recognize in the woods, in the forest. And so people gradually found out that he was there, and a guy would come to him and say, hey, you know, I'm really kind of nervous. I have a lot of anxiety, and it's all through a translator. I'm nervous. I have all kinds of anxiety. What can I do? And my mentor said, oh, you could use ashwagandha. Its nickname is like a horse. Great. Okay. Take ashwagandha, and the person would say, that's wonderful, thank you so much, I know exactly where that is, that's the plant, I've got it, okay. And the person would leave. Then the next person comes up, the next person says, hey, I have this problem, my problem is that I'm very cold at night, I tend to get cold, I'm suffering from whenever it's cool outside, doctor, what can I do? And he said, let me think. And he only knows one herb, you understand. But ashwagandha actually takes care of that too. So he tells the person ashwagandha. The person's very happy and leaves. My mentor starts getting a crowd of people. And somebody comes and says, Doctor, my problem is I can't satisfy my wife. I'm really just not interested. And my mentor said, what can we do? Well, ashwagandha actually does that also. It's a known, very slow acting, but it's called like a horse for a reason, as in, like a horse. And you can take ashwagandha. And so he was able to fulfill the requirements of the course he was taking, his spirituality course, by helping the people. And at one point he said, I feel silly because I'm an herbalist who only knows one herb. And he told this to some of the people. And the people told him, yes, but you know how to use that herb. And that was...
Yes.
Yeah.
Great lesson.
How to use that herb. Great lesson. And, it's very similar with another herb, and then I move into homeopathy. Another herb that's quite similar is ginger. That we can use ginger for so many things, and it's in the store. It's in the grocery store. It's absolutely available. We can buy it in the market, and ginger is as good or better than the medicines that we use for nausea. So when someone awakens from surgery and is nauseous, and might be given an anti-nausea herb, ginger actually will do the trick. And that's amazing.
That is amazing. And do they take fresh ginger and just put it like a tea, or do they grind it up? Or
that's a great question. Ginger is such a good remedy. It actually doesn't even matter how you get it into your body. So you can take fresh ginger and kind of scrape off a little bit of it with your tooth or with your teeth, and that would give you enough ginger into your system to help you with nausea. You could slice ginger, put it into a pan with like a cup of water, boil the water. You'd be making ginger tea that way, and that will work. You could take a ginger tincture. You could take, one of my favorite ways is candy ginger. Trader Joe's has, Trader Joe's has their sweet and spicy ginger. It's my favorite. And it's going to cost you something like $3. It will last you years, unless you eat it all, which you might. But you can use that any time that you have not just nausea, but you can also use it for an upset stomach. You can also use it if you start catching a cold. It's good for colds. It's not going to clear a cold, but it will help.
Right there on your shelf, cheap as dirt, no toxic side effect.
Exactly.
You don't have to go see a doctor and get a prescription for it. Right. And you can put it on your food because it tastes good, too.
It tastes good, exactly. So when I do have someone who is cold-natured, I think first of ginger. It's one of the first herbs that I think of. And a really nice thing, I see quite a few people who are receiving support, who are being treated for cancer, and they see the oncologist, and the oncologist might say, "Yeah, but I don't want you having any of those herbs. I do not want herbs." When my client asks, "Can I take herbs?" Doctor says, "Absolutely not." And repeatedly, I've asked ask your doctor if you're allowed to have ginger and cinnamon. The doctor always said, those aren't herbs. That's just normal food.
That's just food.
Not an herb.
But it is an herb. So,
you know, herb. Yes.
Yeah, this is amazing. And so, just to sort of tie up the herbal part, it's not just the one herb. It's also knowing what combinations of herbs. Because I know those tinctures that you made for me that I loved so much, of things, and so you have to know how to prepare them. But very quickly, we've got to take a break in just a second. I saw you years ago for abdominal pain that the GI doctor couldn't find a cause for. You made some remedies for me, and that's 30 years ago, probably, and I haven't had that pain since, which is amazing. So, folks, hang on. We have to take a break. We'll be back shortly, and we're going to segue into homeopathy, and so you can understand what that is and where to get remedies. And some of it's just so easy, and we'll go from there. So we'll be back shortly.
Want to get that man or woman out of your mind? How about being in the right state of mind for getting that job promotion or staying positive to help boost your immune system? Want to break those old habits? Then it's time for an emotional cellular cleansing with Patty Conklin. You'll get a private 3-hour session in person by phone or by Zoom with 3 months of follow-up appointments, plus email support. But you'll have to do the work, and homework materials are included. Find out more or to book your appointment, visit pattyconklin.com. That's pattyconklin.com.
Audiobooks gives you instant access to over 50,000 of the best sellers and hottest book titles in romance, mystery, fiction, and many other genres. Just visit HealthyLife.net's advertiser page and click on Audiobooks to get started.
If you're wondering if Patty can help you heal, why not book a free 15-minute consultation either by phone or by Zoom? It's a great way to see which of Patty's services is right for you. You'll discuss her services in detail and how they can apply to your specific situation. It's really a great place to start, and you can sign up for your free consultation by phone or Zoom on Patty's website, pattyconklin.com. That's pattyconklin.com. Get the help you need today. Sign up for your free consultation at pattyconklin.com.
ASMC, the premier German company that supplies everything for adventure, from outdoor clothes to outdoor gear, even backpacks. Lots of quality and lots of specials. To start your adventure, go to HealthyLife.net's advertiser page and click on ASMC.
Okay, I get it. You're a doubting Thomas, and you don't want to pay for something unless you can know what it's all about. Well, now you can find out just what Patty Conklin's energy healing is all about. Go to pattyconklin.com to sign up for her free group energy adjustment, held every Wednesday from 12 p.m. to 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Experience for yourself the transformative energy designed to bring calm and healing to your life. Space is limited, so sign up now. Go to pattyconklin.com, click on Services, and you're there.
Where positive people and radio unite. HealthyLife.net.
Okay, and we are back. It's Frenesa K. Hall, MD, here with Susan Kramer, our resident herbalist, homeopath, traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, and dear friend, martial artist, among many other hats that you wear. So we've talked about herbal medicine and got your background. And let's just change gears and go to our main topic for today, homeopathy. You know, I think most people have heard the word homeopathy, homeopathic remedy. But if you ask them, well, what exactly is it and how does it work? I would bet dollars to donuts that the vast majority of people would have no idea. So if you would sort of give us a Homeopathy 101 introduction to what it is, that sort of overarching concept, how it works. And also how you, after you were introduced to arnica for bruising from getting thrown to the mat a little too much, how you progress to that path and learning how to do it.
So one of my mentors in martial arts, a marvelous woman from San Francisco, and we were waiting for her moving van to come, and her moving van came 6 hours late. So I got to spend a lot of time waiting for this van to come. And during the time, she had become a client of mine, an herbal client, and she said, you're a good herbalist. In fact, you're a really good herbalist. But she said, you really are going to have to do homeopathy. And I said, oh, please, I'm really not. I'm very happy with herbal. And she said, you can do so much with homeopathy. She said, one of these days, when you're ready to take the leap, that's the direction that you have to go in. And it made an impact on me. I asked her, had she seen a homeopath? And she said, yes. And I asked, what did you see the homeopath for? And she said, I used to have terrible allergies. I called a homeopath in New York, and the homeopath, I asked how much, she asked how much would she have to pay, and the homeopath said it was going to be $400. And this was probably 50 years ago. And she was she was not a person who had $500 hanging around. She was living, hand to mouth. She was working as a martial arts instructor, and she was convinced that she should see this woman. So she saved up her money. She went and saw the homeopath. She paid the $400. And by the way, other practitioners probably were charging $75 at the time. And she was told that this would be worth it. So she goes to the woman, and she tells the woman that she has allergies, and the woman says, all right, sit down, and proceeded to have an interview that lasted 3 to 4 hours with the homeopath. At the end of the time, the homeopath gave her a single pellet that she dissolved under her tongue. And she never had and her hay fever went away forever.
One
classic
pellet.
So that is a classic homeopathy story. It's not always that great, but I like to think of it as with homeopathy, you can see grand slams, like in baseball, grand slams.
Mm-hmm.
With herbal medicine, you can always get on base. Always. Always. So when someone comes to you and they're taking herbs and they're correctly chosen, they will always provide improvement. But sometimes you get the grand slam that you got, with your stomach distress, or that she got with her allergies, that they were just gone, and they never came back. And your stomach never came back.
Yeah, but she had one pellet, and I had 6 bottles of nasty stuff.
Because that took weeks. Because you were still doing herbs.
Then
you had the one pellet, which changed everything.
Later on, yes, I did have the one pellet, and it was profound.
Right.
So from that experience, it sounds like she planted the seed in your mind that, this is something to explore further.
Exactly.
So how do you go about learning to do homeopathy?
So homeopathy can be done in many ways. So one is the most basic way that most people do it is to learn just a few remedies that are really helpful for them. So I recommend that everyone have arnica and they carry it in the car, and that it be an arnica. The remedies in homeopathy are special. They give the name of the substance and also a number. And so I recommend arnica 200C that you carry in the car. And you would purchase this at a health food store. You could purchase it from Amazon. You can purchase it from a homeopathic pharmacy.
Okay, and tell folks what those numbers mean. I mean, I think I remember what they mean, but...
What those numbers mean is how many times that substance has been diluted. The rule in homeopathy is that the more, it's going to be counterintuitive. So the first thought is like, that can't be right. But the more times it's been diluted, actually, the more powerful it becomes. And so an Arnica 200C will be more powerful than an Arnica 30C. So a lot of people will use an Arnica 30C for ordinary issues. I like to use an Arnica 200C for car wrecks. So if you're in the car and you get back-ended, and you know that the next day you're going to be in sorry shape, I like for people to have in the car, right next to them, that little place underneath your what is it called? Well, in the dash, have it right there, little bottle, and take one pellet of Arnica 200C, and your goal is to get it into your body within 60 seconds.
Wow.
In other words, before you go into shock. And Arnica is one of the best remedies for shock. It also stops microbleeding, and it's wonderful for bruising. It's wonderful for helping people to heal more rapidly. And it reduces pain. I mean, how great is that?
How great is that? It's cheap.
Sure.
So Arnica, got to do it. But when we come back from the break, I want to talk about the time when you came to my house and I think Debbie got stung by a bee, maybe, and you made a remedy on the spot. Let's talk about making a remedy and the sort of the energetic medicine sort of it, because it's fascinating and, like you said, counterintuitive that diluting something a zillion times makes it stronger. So, folks, hang on. We're going to dig into homeopathy some more when we get back from the break.
The pulse of the blood in your veins means you're alive, but a high or low pulse could mean you're not in balance, which could cause problems. But now Patty Conklin has found 3 ways that can constantly make sure your pulse is kept in balance so you can move easier through life. Subscribe to Patty's Healing Pulse today. It has a plethora of things to do, discounts, book club, and so much more. Visit pattyconklin.com to find out more about Patty's Healing Pulse subscriptions. That's pattyconklin.com.
Reach your health and fitness goals. Whether you want to lose weight, learn to dance, build muscle, or just live healthy, Beachbody gives you unlimited access to the nation's most popular fitness and weight loss solutions. Visit our advertiser page and click on Beachbody now.
You may not be in the same room or even the same country, but Patty Conklin's remote energy work can help you heal whether you have an illness, emotional wounds, or are in spiritual turmoil. And she can do it remotely. You can choose your session time, too, starting from 30 minutes, 3 hours, or even 6-hour sessions. Healing energy. Healing you no matter where you are. Visit pattyconklin.com, scroll down to Remote Healing, and book your appointment now. That's Remote Healing at pattyconklin.com.
For the best in business class travel, count on Cheapo Air. Cheapo Air has the best price guarantee, 24/7 customer service, and easy booking online or by phone. To experience your hassle-free journey, start by going to HealthyLife.net's advertiser page and click on Cheapo Air.
If you're on pattyconklin.com, you might want to visit her store. There you can inexpensively buy powerful visualizations on a plethora of subjects, all to help you heal, help rebuild your immune system, work with color or tonal energy, help remove fear and depression, and so much more. Plus, you can get Patty's best-selling book at her store, To Be Your Best Too. God Within is a great book to teach you how to use the lost knowledge of the universe to impact your physical life today. Visit her store at pattyconklin.com. You'll be glad you did. pattyconklin.com.
Expanding your mind. HealthyLife.net.
Okay.
Okie dokie, folks. We are back with Susan Kramer, and we are talking about homeopathy. Just before the break, we talked about, she told us about arnica and how that you should carry it in your car, and if you are in an accident, have it handy and take one 200C pellet under your tongue to help mitigate the soreness that you will experience. But let's talk about how remedies are actually made, because I think I mentioned that years ago you came to visit and Debbie got stung by a bee, and of course that's really painful.
That really hurts. Yes.
Yes, and you made a remedy, and I can't remember if you made a pellet. I think you probably did use a pellet because we didn't have the bee, to get the stinger and make a remedy that way. But I think you took a pellet, and I only had, I didn't have 200C pellets, and you made a remedy on the fly, and I saw this with my own eyes. She took it, and within 15 minutes was like 90% better. I don't know about you folks, but I've been bitten by yellow jackets and bees and wasps before, and it lasts forever. And I remember, and she remembers it to this day, because, generally you just suffer. You put ice on it and it still hurts. So, go over sort of the basics of making a remedy and sort of the energetics of why it's better. And then let's also talk about what we talked about at the break, about how homeopathy remedies take into account the nature of the issue that you have, but also your general nature and how you really hone in on the best remedy for that individual, which explains why that visit that your mentor had was 4 hours. So if you could sort of walk us through those things.
So, I have already forgotten many of the questions you just asked.
Say that again?
I've lost some. You asked me so many questions in this.
Okay. So first, let's just start with making a remedy.
Making a remedy. So typically, most people will use remedies that have been made by labs. So they're made by pharmacies, just like regular medical pharmacies. There are homeopathic pharmacies that are actually inspected, and that they're under the FDA. So homeopathic remedies are typically, you start with the stuff. So starting with the stuff, you might start with, let's take, let's take an herb called rue, R-U-E. And you take the plant, it grows, it's a common weed, you take that plant and you smush it. In other words, you beat it up as much as you can, probably with a mortar and pestle. You beat it up and you grind it into a sugar. There's a kind of sugar tablet that you use for this. So you grind a lactose bead, then you grind it into it, and then you take a very small amount of that. So let's say 1 gram, and you grind that, and that was called let's say 1C. You ground in, theoretically, 1 part of the stuff into 100 parts of something neutral. So you ground it into lactose beads. Now you take 1 gram of those lactose beads that have been medicated, the 1C, and you take that 1 gram and you grind that into 100 fresh grams, 100 grams of clean lactose beads, and you grind it in. And when you're done grinding that in, you've created what's called a 2C. I have news. That has almost no medicinal quality, but it does have some of the stuff. Then you take 1 gram from that from that 100 grams, that diluted 100 grams, you take 1 gram of that, of the 2C, and you add it to 100 grams of fresh lactose, and you grind it in, and that's a 3C. And you keep going down the line. To get to Arnica 200C, you do that 200 times. That's a cycle.
Oh.
Yeah, but actually you only do the grinding part 3 times. And after the grinding part 3 times, you switch over to water. And you take a gram of that diluted stuff, put it into 100 mils of water, and you succuss it or add energy to it. And now you have a 4C. And then you take 1 milliliter of that and add to it 100 milliliters of water, and you succuss it. And that's how you start diluting it down. By the time you
and diluting it gives it more energy.
Exactly. Diluting it gives it
power.
More energy. Mm-hmm. And you would think that just sounds completely counterintuitive, but if you think about it, you're adding energy each time.
You're amplifying. I think of it as you're diluting it, and then you add that energy to it, and it sort of amplifies the stamp of that plant. And you keep doing that, and you just amplify it and amplify it. And that's how you can actually make a remedy for yourself.
That's exactly
and just
right.
keep diluting and diluting and adding energy. And when you say succuss it, you're shaking it up and beating it in your palm of your hand and sort of just adding that energy to it. So, yes, very counterintuitive because, in the Western mindset, you have 5 milligram tablets of something, but then you have 10 milligram tablets. That's twice as much. And then you go higher and higher. And then, of course, we know that the higher your dose, the higher your risk of side effects. But correct me if I'm wrong, but there are really no side effects, toxic side effects of homeopathy, correct?
There are no toxic side effects, but yes, by choosing the wrong remedy in a high potency, you could set yourself back. You could create discomfort. So
right. So you need to know what you're doing.
Right. You know what you're doing. So if you were in a car wreck and you took Arnica is appropriate for everyone who's experienced trauma, period.
Mm-hmm.
So Arnica will be perfectly fine and will do a good job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
but some other remedy might make you actually more sore because it's not the right remedy. But there are no you're not going to die from a toxic effect.
Correct. Right. So if you and I were sitting around and saying, "Hey, let's just start taking homeopathic remedies," that's not a good plan. On the other hand, if you have a problem and we address the problem, that's an appropriate use of the remedy.
Yes. And so we've got to go another break. They come so fast. When we come back, I want you to talk about the flu pandemic from 1917, and I want you to talk about 3 remedies besides Arnica that a person should have in their cabinet to take care of some basic things that we encounter pretty regularly. So hold on, folks. When we come back, the pandemic story is pretty amazing, and also give you some tips on things that you can use very handily for common things that we encounter. So we'll be right back.
Patty Conklin is busy, but she's never too busy for you, and there are lots of ways to get a healing session with her. You can even get one via Zoom or by phone. With 29 years in the business of energy healing, Patty has a unique and remarkable ability to connect with your energy to help you heal on a mind, body, spirit level. From angst to pain, you can get help from Patty. Book a half-hour healing session and embark on your own personal healing journey. Visit PattyConklin.com. and click on Services. That's PattyConklin.com.
If you're looking for unique items at affordable prices, then you should try Dream Product. From apparel to beauty, from shoes to therapeutic relief products, visit HealthyLife.net's advertiser page and click on Dream Products, and maybe your dreams might just come into reality.
Want to get that man or woman out of your mind? How about being in the right state of mind for getting that job promotion or staying positive to help boost your immune system? Want to break those old habits? Then it's time for an emotional cellular cleansing with Patty Conklin. You'll get a private 3-hour session in person by phone or by Zoom with 3 months of follow-up appointments, plus email support. But you'll have to do the work, and homework materials are included. Find out more or to book your appointment, visit PattyConklin.com. That's PattyConklin.com.
Get high-quality glasses, sunglasses, and prescription lenses at eyeglasses.com. Choose from over 250,000 items and 400 brands. Already have frames? Get replacement lenses. It's easy. Go to our advertiser page and click eyeglasses.com.
If you're wondering if Patty can help you heal, why not book a free 15-minute consultation either by phone or by Zoom? It's a great way to see which of Patty's services is right for you. You'll discuss her services in detail and how they can apply to your specific situation. It's really a great place to start, and you can sign up for your free consultation by phone or Zoom on Patty's website, PattyConklin.com. That's PattyConklin.com. Get the help you need today. Sign up for your free consultation at PattyConklin.com.
Radio your way. HealthyLife.net.
Okay, folks, we are back. Time flies all the time. We're in our last segment on homeopathy with Susan Kramer. At the break, I brought up that I want to do two things in this segment. One, I want you to talk about the power of homeopathy and talk about the pandemic in 1917, a flu outbreak. And then I want you to leave folks with a few more remedies other than arnica that are handy to have in your household to help you with common complaints. So let's start with the 1917 outbreak.
Oh, well, it was terrible. You had people were dying in the streets. The hospitals were completely overrun with patients. There was no room for more patients, and they were dying, except in the homeopathic hospitals. The homeopathic hospitals, some doctors claimed that they didn't lose any patients because they took a very different approach. So they were going beyond what we have spoken of so far, that they were using the specific symptoms that the people had. So even though it was an epidemic, and it was an epidemic with people had difficulty breathing, people had nausea, people had diarrhea, depending on how they felt, the homeopaths chose remedies for those people based on their symptoms, but based on how they showed up with things. So, so Frenesa, you and I were talking about like a headache. So what's different about a headache? If you start drilling down, if you start asking the person, oh, what makes your headache worse? Oh, light makes it worse. Does anything make it better? Yeah, lying down makes it better. Are you cold when you have a headache? Yeah, I'm freezing cold. Oh my gosh, I'm freezing. So it turns out that during the Spanish flu epidemic, some of the people with the flu that they had then was characterized by extreme coldness. They were freezing, even though they were burning up. You could take their temperature, and they were hot, hot, hot. But their sensation of it, their subjective feeling was one of absolute freezing cold. And this is, the homeopaths recognize this as what's called a cancer flu. And what they meant was they were identifying that flu as being, in that person, as being characterized by coldness. And they knew that camphor was a very good remedy for flu where the person felt like they were experiencing cold. And so when people were given camphor in that situation, so a person came in with the flu, with all those bad symptoms, but they were freezing cold, camphor turned out to be a fabulous remedy for them. Another one of the fabulous remedies from that time was, you've probably heard of this one, is bryonia. So bryonia. The person would come in, and this was also used as an herb, but they used it homeopathically, which meant that they could use it in higher potencies. And the higher the potency, not only the stronger it is, but the more, the longer it will last within the body. If it's the right remedy, it will last longer within the body. So the person who came in with Spanish flu, who said, Doctor, I'm ready to kill myself. My headache hurts so badly. My headache is so severe. And my throat, my throat is killing me. So the description was of extreme pain. But not only that, they had a very special quality to it. And that was when the doctor said, all right, do me a favor, stop breathing for a second. Just don't breathe. So you can imagine yourself stopping breathing. And what does your headache feel like when you stop breathing? What does your throat feel like when you stop breathing? And if it's a bryonia flu, they feel better while they're not breathing. In other words, they feel better when they're not moving, when they're perfectly still. That was a brilliant remedy for them. So that was another one of the remedies that turned out to be a very important remedy of the Spanish flu. By the way, that's also a really good remedy for people who suffer from intractable pain. If they have that quality, if they have what they're called those modalities of bryonia, that it's better from stillness, worse from motion. And another thing is oftentimes they'll feel better with pressure. So if the doctor went and pressed on their chest, a lot of people would hate that feeling. With bryonia, they kind of go, It would be
okay. So what you're saying to me is, during that Spanish flu time, the homeopathic remedies were chosen specific to the nature of the symptoms that each individual had. Because as we know from recent experience, and anyone who's had the flu, you know that sometimes you have, headaches, sore throat, body aches. Other times you're nauseated and tremendously fatigued. And so your constellation of symptoms helped direct the homeopath to the correct remedy. Tell me, because I don't remember exactly, but what kind of mortality rate did they have at the homeopathic hospitals compared to the conventional hospitals?
It was less than 5%.
Less than what percent?
Crazy. It was crazy low. So mortality rates at the conventional hospitals range from like 25 to 50%, depending on whether they were using aspirin or not. It turns out that aspirin actually increased the risk of death.
Wow. And the homeopathic hospitals were, did you say less than 5%?
Less than 5%, and at the U.S. National Homeopathic Hospital, they didn't lose anyone during the pandemic.
See, this is the kind of information that is, to me, just shows you the power of properly used homeopathic remedies in the hands of people who really know what they're doing. So we have a few minutes left. If you would give people a few more remedies to just have in their toolkit for common things that ail them. It's summertime, poison ivy is, abundant. Is there a remedy that you could recommend for that?
Yeah, so the most commonly used remedy for poison ivy is something called Rhus tox. So that's R, like in radar, so RHUS tox, like X.
And
I would
what
use
about for
Root Tox 30C?
30C? Okay, Root Tox 30C for poison ivy. Nausea?
Nausea? You know what? One of my favorite remedies is Nux vomica, which is an important remedy for you.
Yes.
Nux vomica oftentimes is helpful when there's nausea. But for nausea,
Okay.
I'm going to have to say, when it's nausea, I want people to just take ginger. Because it's going to hit a broader spectrum of people.
Okay, and you can just make a tea, or and then
now,
one more. We have a minute left.
Poisoning.
One more. Pardon me?
Food poisoning. So for food poisoning, I like for people to have arsenicum in the house.
Arsenicum.
Yeah, sounds like arsenic. Yeah, like if you've been poisoned. And you say, gee, I feel so bad, I think I'm going to die. Arsenic. Yeah.
Arsenicum. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got arsenicum, we've got ginger, we've got Rhus tox, we've got Nux vomica, and we've got arnica. And how can people reach you?
They can reach me at 404-248-1784.
There you go, folks. You can get a consultation. Say that number one more time, and then we're going to have to go.
All right, 404-248-1784.
Excellent. Thank you so much. It's always great to chat with you, and I always learn so much. And I hope, folks, that you benefited from this, because these are non-toxic remedies when used properly, and they're cheap, and they last a long time. So next week I'm going to have Patel, nurse practitioner, and we're going to talk about extracorporeal blood oxygenation and ozonation. It's EBOO, a fantastic new intervention. So thank you for joining us. Join me next week, and stay well.
You've been listening to the Patty Conklin Show on HealthyLife.net radio. To listen to it again or share it with a friend, visit HealthyLife.net podcast on demand link on our homepage and click on Patty Conklin.